Further, I sat down with Zimbabwe's richest man, Strive Masiyiwa, who is part of the Business to Rescue Fund being set up to assist Ebola efforts this weekend. Now, this is what he had to say about the initiative.
Obviously, the Ebola crisis has been evolving for a couple of months now, and we've been actively involved in it for, I guess, since about March or April, that we began to see that this thing was going to be a problem. And our initial focus ourselves was the African countries where we are active as a business. But in the last 2 months or so, the chair of the African Union reached out to a group of African business leaders to say, how can we collaborate our efforts, particularly with dealing with the challenge at source, which is going to the countries of Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. And basically, we've been heavily engaged with her because she has a very special mandate. Number one, most people forget that Dr. Zuma is a medical doctor. You remember she was Mandela's Minister of Health. I don't know anyone who really understands this issue from both in terms of its medical clinical side, its public health issue, as well as the leadership issues on how to tackle it, as well as she does. So we've been quietly working with her towards this initiative that we will be publicly announcing some of the work that we've been doing with her on Saturday.
If you can walk us through EcoNet, has it been touched by this particular crisis? Because I do know that you have a task force that you will deploy in Zimbabwe, and you've previously worked on initiatives like this when you fought the strife of cholera back in 2008.
That's right. You know, as a group on the African continent, we are active in some, I would say about 15 countries or so. We have boots on the ground with people. We do not have people on the ground in the 3 countries affected. But of course, we are affected by anything that affects the African economy. And above all, we are affected by anything that affects human life. So at the moment, we are not looking at this from the business perspective. We're talking about the tragedy associated with such loss of human life in Africa. And how do we all use our assets? Those assets include influence, convening capabilities, money, people, and technology. And we're trying to bring all those into play at the moment.
I'd like us to touch on technology and the influence that it can have on the healthcare industry in a moment, but maybe if we touch on some of the representatives that you'll be sitting alongside the table with at the meeting in Addis Ababa, the likes of Mohamed Dewji from Tanzania, Aliko Dangote from Nigeria, as well as Sim Shabalala from South Africa. Does this represent a kind of cohesiveness that's taking place between African business leaders?
Yes, and Patrice Motsepe and I have been on the phone to each other. It's terrible because he's in some time zone that keeps me up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
So you're good friends, I see?
I've been friends with Patrice since maybe 91, when he was just a young lawyer, and I was just a young puppy and trying to set up a business.
Look at you both now.
We're great friends. And you know, the thing is, we all know each other and we work together extraordinarily well. I know Sifiso Dabengwa, for example, he's going. I've been talking to Putu Manhleko. We've been talking about, we're on to each other over this, urging each other on, pushing ourselves, discussing various solutions. So I understand that there is about, there'll be about 30 people, but the list is growing quite dramatically. There are a lot of people who have been calling to say, you know, why aren't we included? And I say, you are included, just get on the plane. We'll see you there. So we are expecting, obviously it's a round table discussion. So it will look at, it will be chaired by Dr. Zuma herself. the president of the African Development Bank is her principal partner on this project. So Donald Kaberuka will be there, and he has been a remarkable voice on this. And then we have got the messages that are coming through from the elders. Kofi Annan has issued a statement. General Obasanjo, former president of Nigeria, as you know, he's also issued a statement, Gracia Machel. So there is a lot of interest around this roundtable.